everybody. This is my US History 1 students. We're continuing the discussion on the Declaration of Independence. So we're going to be looking at its function, and then we'll be looking at its claim on natural rights as well. So the Declaration of Independence basically announced to mankind why the colonists felt they must separate from the British Empire. It was an appeal to the world, an attempt to win public understanding and support at home and abroad, a piece of political propaganda that's main function of the Declaration of Independence, right? So it was a brilliant piece of propaganda. The document implies that it speaks for the majority of the people in the United States, when actually, according to John Adams, only about a third of the American people supported the war. Third, he claimed, were for the British, and a third didn't care, right? And so it was, in reality, speaking for a minority of people, this document. How effective, you got to think how effective the document would have been in trying to gain support if it only represented a third of the people. So this is why it is a great piece of documentary, because it successfully does speak for an entire group of people, even though in reality it's not. I mean, there was a mini civil war going on during the Revolution of people who were still loyal to the British Empire during this conflict. In this manner, the Patriots justified a revolt by a minority, not by a majority. This fact raises an interesting question. Does an oppressed minority have the right to revolt in society today? In a speech given in 1848, Lincoln stated, "Any people anywhere, being inclined and having the power, have the right to rise up and shake off the existing government and form a new one that suits them better. This is the most valuable and most sacred right which we hoped to believe to liberate the world. Nor is it a right confined to cases in which the whole people of an existing government may choose to exercise it. Any portion of such people that can may revolutionize and make it their own of so much of their territory as they inhabit." So in 1848, the Lincoln that would later try to preserve the Union and claim that it was impossible for the South to secede from the Union, argued this very notion himself, that if the place that you inhabit isn't speaking for you as far as the government is concerned, you have a duty and a right to rebel against that government. The Declaration has become a sacred document in our society and around the world, in which people have appealed when they wish to make drastic reforms and to assert human equality. In the 1960s, the Black Panthers were such a group. They even printed the preamble of the declarations of their party platform. In 1848, the women's rights movement was kicked off using the template of the Declaration of the Independence as well. And so this document has been an inspiring document, and it's been a template for reform movements and or movements towards radical changes within society ever since it was ratified under the Second Continental Congress. The Declaration was also a justification for events that had already taken place. The American Revolution was well over by 1776, and the 13 states were fighting for war to preserve what they had accomplished by that date, independence, right? The Declaration did not advocate that changes should take place. It was an attempt. To just, again, to preserve what already was accomplished, right? It was Great Britain that was fighting to change something, right? So sometimes this is perceived differently. Sometimes it's perceived that the colonists were fighting to change something, when in fact when it's Britain that's trying to fight to change something. So natural rights, the other part of this concept that we're looking at. In writing the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson borrowed quite heavily from the Enlightenment, Newtonian principles, and in particular from the writings of John Locke and his natural rights doctrine. Faith in nature and in reason was the common denominator of the Enlightenment. But Locke and Jefferson accepted the Newtonian world governed by laws of nature and of nature's God. They accepted, too, the idea that reason could penetrate and master the laws of nature, and that reason could persuade men to conform to the axioms or principles of reason in philosophy and ethics and politics and economics and in law, right? So the Enlightenment is basically buttressed by the scientific revolution, which is saying through reason we can understand phenomena. And the Enlightenment comes in and says, not only can we understand natural phenomena, but we can also understand with reason how people should govern themselves, based within reason, not within tradition or faith. In the words of reason, reason makes things self-evident is basically a real strong principle within the Enlightenment to all educated people. If there is a commitment to freedom of the mind, freedom from religious and social superstitions, right? So if we can get past history, if we can get past tradition, if we educate ourselves, things around us, the world, the way we govern ourselves, become self-evident. It's, just like this piece of paper is shaped this way and it's orange, it's self-evident by looking at it. You don't have to explain what this is. It's a piece of paper, right? Self-evident. So is freedom. So is democracy. So are the laws of gravity, right? Self-evident as well. It's something inexplicable. But through reason, you can completely understand this, and through education, you can completely understand this as well. Jefferson's self-evident truths in the Declaration were no more original than were the arguments in Thomas Paine's Common Sense. The Declaration of Independence was itself simply a common sense itself. In other words, so people read it, and why it resonated with them is, yes, of course, this is the way it is. This is why it was generally accepted, and why it's seen as such a great piece of political propaganda. Anything that just seems apparent when you read it doesn't seem contrived in any way. Is an example of great propaganda, even though it might be a contrivance. It also has been argued that the signers of the Declaration realized that these truths discussed in the document were not evident to everybody, right? Either in America or in Europe. That is why they said self-evident and not evident to all mankind. And they were careful to point out that it, quote, we who hold them to be thus, right? So they're using personal pronouns within the language of the Declaration of Independence. Reason forces one to ask if these rights were self-evident to, quoting John Adams, to Negroes, mulattoes, Irish teagues, and outlandish jack tars, as John Adams referred to the participants of the Boston Massacre, or how about the poor, marginally employed young men who participated in the mob violence from 1765 to 1776. We know by fact of omission that these self-evidence rights did not apply to slaves, right? In 1688, John Locke appealed to reason to write a justification of the glorious revolution of the year against King James II for depriving English people of their natural rights of life, liberty, and property, right? So that's what John Locke wrote, life, liberty, and property. And then Thomas Jefferson, borrowing heavily from John Locke, is going to use that phrase, except he's going to put in not property, but happiness. The reason why is, again, this is a form of propaganda. Not everyone is a property owner, and we want everyone to come on board with the fight for independence, right? So even those without property, people might need to take bullets as soldiers, want to be implicated within this effort, right? So The Declaration of Independence, a very brilliant piece of propaganda with very beautiful language imposed to it, highly inspired by the Enlightenment. Great piece of propaganda and arguing for natural rights. Now the thing about natural rights too is it needs to be understood that this is just an idea, right? There's really nothing in the universe that subscribes to natural rights. It's a great idea. I wholly subscribe to it. But it must be understood that it is an idea. And like all ideas, these ideas must be fostered and understood. Otherwise, these ideas that we assume to be natural rights can be taken away, right? Name one right that you have that can't be taken away by force from authority or other sources, right? All rights can be taken away from in one extent or the other. Anyway, that's the Declaration of Independence. Please email me or ask questions in class. I'll talk to you guys later. Toodaloo.